YouTube land? Big E here. Got a brand new review for you. This time around, the Optimus RDA, or rebuildable dripping atomizer. I purchased this through Mad Vapes after debating it for a short period of time, and let me tell you something. I'm glad I bought this thing. Now, most of you people know I'm big time into tanks and cardo setups. This is my first rebuildable that I've ever purchased. I liked it so much I bought two more just in case something were to happen to this one. They're a great deal. They're not quite as huge as a octopus and maybe a little bit smaller than a squid. Has a standard drip tip connection at the top. Unfortunately, on the bottom end, it's sealed. So if you use a bottom feeder mod, something that squeezes juice up from the bottom through the hole, well, this isn't going to work for you. But if you want a great tasting vape with lots of vapor, then this may be your ideal setup. I've come to carry around a little bottle of juice with me now because I've been using this a lot lately. I'm almost to the point where I'm never going to go back to a tank or a standard cardo. Now, I'm going to vape for you on my little Rad Spark mod. Let me show you what it looks like. Tastes pretty good. Decent amount of vapor, but we can do a little bit better. I think this could use a little work. After all, the coil in this rebuildable atomizer here, it is about a week old, and I'm starting to taste a little changes in the flavor. Now currently I have a coil that's supposed to be 1.7 ohms, thereabouts. I used my multimeter on it and it's actually about 2 ohms, which is right around where I normally vape. But just the same, I got a little bit better performance out of the original coil that came with it. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to show you exactly how you change the coils on these. And in the process, I'll put a little bit better coil on it, at least to my liking. So let's get to it. This is actually a 3-piece device. It has the bottom section where your coil is kept. You have this section here, which is broken into 2 parts for the ventilation. Now there are 5 really small holes. I doubt you can see them. But there's 5 really tiny holes here, and the inside part, the bottom section, has a slot milled in it. And by twisting this section against this section, you can adjust how many holes are exposed and how much airflow you get through the device. Alright, now we're going to rebuild us a coil. As you can see, I still have the original coil attached to this device. The other things I'm going to need is a coil wire, and I have a length of wick. This is fatter than the wicks that are normally used. So we're going to take this wick, we're going to take a sewing needle, hold it on there. A lot of you have probably seen this procedure done before. Now I like to hold it from the open end, not the looped end, and I am going to wrap this. Now it doesn't really matter how many times you wrap your coil wire around the length of wick, but what matters is the length of the heater wire that you are using. I'm going to wrap that, looks like about 4 or 5 times, and then the conductive wire at the end, at either end of the Nicotrol, I'm going to wrap around the wick once. This is just to help support the coil and prevent it from being bound up. And there is a nice fancy coil. This one should hold a lot of juice. Pull my needle out, and I will double check the spacing on these coil leads. To install the new coil, it's just a matter of inserting your leads into the little holes on the posts. You can pull the leads through from the other side. Now I'm going to straighten my coil out a little on here. And then I will take each lead and wrap it around the threaded part of the post clockwise once. Just once. I will tighten these thumb screws down. A lot of people complain, they say these are really hard to do without a tool of some sort, but I haven't had a single problem. Now I'm going to check the spacing on my coil wires and make some minor adjustments with the tip of this needle. Now it's up to you whether or not you want to leave this loop here, but me personally, I like to clip it. For one reason, it makes it easier to insert into the Optimus body, and for another reason, it tends to wick up the liquid a little better. Now that I've done that, and these thumb screws are tight, I'm going to cut the excess off the lead as close as I can. And then if there's just a little bit left, I continue its wrap clockwise around the post, ensuring that it's not going to ground out on the other post, just to kind of get them out of the way. I'm going to take some Mad Tobacco Top Vapor e-liquid, also from Mad Vapes. I'm going to put a dab right there in the middle of the wick, let it soak in. I'll put a dab on this end, let that soak in a little, and I run some up the length of the wick. Take the other half of our housing, and what I like to do is have the holes face away from me on the housing. I insert the wicks up into the housing like such, and I turn it counterclockwise, the base part, just to get it wound in there. And using the pin, I'm going to tuck the rest of this wick around the post so it coils around the interior. Now that it's nice and tucked in, I'm going to put just a couple more drops of liquid in there just to make sure it's thoroughly saturated. About 3 or 4 drops. Okay, I brought out my multimeter to do some quick tests for you. So I'm going to put my positive terminal on the red lead and the threads on the negative. And it's measuring 2.3 ohms. Brand new coil. Let's vape it. Considering it's a tiny 3 volt mod or 3.7 volt mod, that vape's awesome. Let's try that again. Great vapor. And I gotta tell you, I wasn't much of a believer in dripping coils until I got this thing. The flavor is so rich by comparison. And you get just gobs and gobs of vapor, even with like a standard 3.7 volt mod like this. I'm blown away. So anyways, Optimus rebuildable coil. What can I say about it? The Optimus is a great unit to check out. Just a little bit smaller than the typical tank. And it produces tons of vapor, tons of flavor. I give it like 2 thumbs up. It's easily rebuildable, uses common O-ring sizes, works on just about any device. It's only dependent upon the coil you line for it. So it's definitely an awesome bit of kit, and I recommend it to anyone. Until next time, this is Big E saying take it easy and vape on. That's so good.